Welcome back. President Biden's executive order on racial equity in the federal government includes direction for agencies to use data to evaluate their equity efforts. The Chief Data Officers Council is already working on how to do that. Temilola Afolabi is research associate at the Center for Open Data Enterprise. She co-leads the Open Data for Racial Equity program there, and she's writing about data and equity along with her colleague Paul Kuhn in GovExec. Temi, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. Where are the greatest opportunities for the administration to use data to comport with the idea that President Biden laid out in the EO?
Thank you for having me. Of course, we know that discrimination and racism pervades every aspect of life in the United States and around the world. So that includes health, access to quality health care, that includes fair housing, that includes environmental justice. All of this is exacerbated by the discrimination and disparities that we see every day. So we know that data provides an objective, concrete evidence on the institutional and structural barriers that exacerbate many of these disparities that we see these groups face. So analyzing quality, publicly available data can do many things, such as identify which communities are at most risk, have low infrastructure capacity to handle coastal flooding, and which hospitals will need increased resources during COVID-19. All of that can be seen clearly with publicly accessible, high quality data.
You and Paul write about 5 different areas where the administration has potential to improve: criminal justice, healthcare access, environmental justice, fair housing, workforce opportunity. Does the data infrastructure exist, in your view, for the organizations to do what you propose,
It does, but the unfortunate thing is a lot of this data is in silos. So the federal government has a lot of sources of data, such as the Census Bureau, the Department of Health. They have their own large data sets, but they're not interoperable, which means that they can't easily be shared between institutions. There's a lot of safeguards that prevents these people from sharing the data. So a lot of the data is out there, but it can't be shared, or it's not in a clean format that can be shared. And that's a very large issue that we're dealing with. So before we can even start using that data, how can we clean that data and make it quality enough for it to be used in all of these different sectors?
In the work that you've done, have you seen whether or not agencies, in your view, are trying to work toward that goal, or is one of the obstacles potentially that agencies have not begun or have not gotten very far on that journey, Temi?
No, we're definitely seeing steps by multiple agencies, such as the Department of Health, such as the Department of Commerce. Definitely there are federal level initiatives in place to start bridging those silos, bridging those gaps, and sharing data, because we know that a lot of this data is interconnected. So data on health disparities also has to do with transportation access, which also has to do with climate. Like, all of those go in one, because they're all interconnected. So the previous administration, that was harder. It was harder to get a data-driven action, off the ground and, happening. But with the Biden administration, he's already come in. For example, he's planning to make an equitable data working group so that all of his policies going forward by different federal agencies are taken by a data-driven lens. So I would commend the Biden administration.
You and Paul write in this piece, particularly regarding workforce opportunity, we need better data and better data standards, as you referred to earlier, to ensure that workers can access training that matches employers' needs. That data exists. Extracting that, mixing it with other data, as you mentioned a moment ago, strikes me as one of the biggest challenges that agencies face. Is that what you see across all 5 of these areas, that the data and the data standards are problematic for agencies as they try to trade information?
Yes, because a lot of these data standards are outdated. We know there's been a technological and data boom in the past, decade or so, like big open data. And now there's just these huge repositories of data. And they made these repositories with not in mind to be sharing across different systems. And we know that the data warehouses that they hold them in were not made in mind to be shared together with, and especially with standards. New standards have to be made so that they reflect the current time that we're in and the current data that we're working with.
Temi, thanks very much for coming on the program. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.